I've battled sicknesses in the past, but nothing like this invisible enemy, this opponent much greater than any I'd ever faced before.
Mid-March 2020, New York City was in a panic. Seemingly overnight, the coronavirus had evolved from a breaking news headline to a citywide crisis. For personal trainer Dan Venezia, it was unlike anything he'd ever seen.
My body hurt to the touch. It felt as if I was being, repeatedly tackled by an NFL lineman over and over again. I thought I had given myself a really tough workout, but then it was to the point where I could barely move.
In the days that followed, other symptoms began to manifest. To keep his wife and 2 sons safe, Dan quarantined himself and prayed for the best.
11 straight days, I had a fever of 103 degrees, nonstop headache, pounding like a sledgehammer in my head, shortness of breath, tightness in my chest. If I tried to take in a deep breath, it was as if I was inhaling broken glass. I'm praying every day that, this is not a serious thing and that I can break it and I can beat it.
But after nearly 2 weeks of worsening symptoms, Dan knew what it meant. A COVID test at a nearby urgent care confirmed it. Dan was positive.
I said goodbye right here, right at this counter, to my wife of 22 years and my 2 teenage boys, not knowing if I'd return home to them.
On the morning of Palm Sunday, Dan checked himself into the hospital, where doctors diagnosed him with pneumonia. Later that night, his fever spiked to 104, and his O2 levels plummeted below 90.
It was the worst night of my life, and this disease, this virus, was greater than any opponent I've ever faced before. It knocked me out physically. I wanted to escape. I wanted to rip the IV out of my arm and the oxygen out of my nose.
Confined to that hospital bed with no one by his side for support, Dan became overwhelmed.
The television was on and it was spewing out the death toll numbers. And they were showing overcrowded funeral homes. They were showing morgues and nursing homes. And I was questioning God, and I was thinking about not being there to send my boys off to college and not being there for their weddings. And I went in as a man of faith, but I began to question the very existence of God and His will.
Then, through the words of the late American nun, Mother Angelica, Dan found the faith to keep fighting.
My eyes were closed and I hit the channel up button by mistake. And it was Mother Angelica saying the Our Father, the Lord's Prayer, the words that Jesus taught us. And I prayed alongside with her for 30 minutes or so, giving me that spiritual food that I needed for my soul.
And Dan wasn't alone in his prayers. For that same night, more than 5,000 church members from Dan's cathedral tuned in to a virtual service to pray for his recovery.
COVID may have taken over physically and mentally, but it was no match for the power of prayer. I had former teammates sending prayer chains across the country, parents from the high school that my boys attend having prayer sessions. And when I tell you that I could feel those prayers, I knew there was no doubt that I would beat this disease.
The very next day, his fever broke. For Dan, it was evidence of God at work.
Jesus Christ was the best doctor that I had, and the best medicine I was given was prayer. I was so set on the mission on getting home to my wife and my boys, and I knew that Jesus was there with me every step of the way.
His body quickly recovered and his breathing improved. By that Thursday, just 4 days after being admitted to the hospital, Dan was cleared for release.
And as they wheeled me out, I had a pain-free awakening at that moment. It was as if God had let out a subtle yet powerful exhale. And I took in a breath for the very first time in 2 weeks that did not hurt.
That Easter Sunday, Dan celebrated the miracle of Jesus' resurrection and the miracle of his healing.
It was a very different Easter than any others that I've experienced, because this is like getting another shot at life. COVID had ravaged my body, had taken over my mind, but the one thing I did not let it break was my spirit.
Since that Easter, Dan shares the story with anyone in search of hope for healing. More than ever, he is grateful for the life God has given him here on earth and eternally.
And the first thing I do is take in a deep breath. I am so blessed. I won't say lucky. I am blessed to be able to share my story, this testimony, with others in an effort to provide them with hope that there's a God out there that genuinely cares, a powerful God that lends his hand healing and restoring. It's the greatest love story ever told. The fact that Jesus rose for you and for me so that we shall not perish but have eternal life, that just warms my soul. It was a special Easter.